The secret to a well-written paper and an award-winning paper ultimately, I think, has to be simplicity. I think what we often see as judges is there's kind of too many stories in the story, and that makes it hard to assess. So, my number one guidance would be just really trim it back and make sure that you're focusing on one single story and you're telling it consistently from start to finish. And so you really want to make their job easier by making it super simple for them to remember, oh, that was the story about this. And I remember it because it made that point very, very clearly. The more complicated you make the paper, I think the harder you make it for the jury members to remember it and to assign it to a specific value. I think when it comes to evidencing, impact and results, what we often see in papers is that entrants will kind of stop at demonstrating media impact. So we tend to see a lot of this generated impressions and this generated, earned media value. But what we want to see is really how that then translates into consumers' minds and wallets, and ultimately how that translates into growth. The thing that always winds me up the most when reading effectiveness papers is when writers seem to have forgotten by the end of the paper what the story they set out to tell in the beginning was. But we actually see quite often, a very simple to fix mistake, which is, do your results align with the goals that you set up in the first section? And a large amount of papers do not tick that simple box, which unfortunately is a pretty basic starting point for being considered for an award. I do think that discounting makes a difference. And it's interesting because discounting is rarely very scientific. Right? It's more of a logical process through which you eliminate other factors. I think a well-written discounting section just attests to the thoughtfulness of the author in general and the thinking in general. I think what I wouldn't do is write a 2-sentence discounting section that basically just says, and nothing else happened in the world in 2020, which obviously would be ridiculous. Thinking about when you want the big aha moment to be positioned in a paper. I think classically that probably happens, towards the end of the first third. This being said, I feel like, increasingly as the spectrum of solutions that creative agencies and creativity aims to unlock broadens, that can change. I don't think it's a hard and fast rule that you kind of want the aha moment to come in the first third, but I think it generally tends to be that way. Absolutely. I think the quality of the copywriting and the fact that authors might choose to have a defined tone and style of humor in which the paper is written, I think that can definitely actually go quite a long way in scoring your points. At the end of the day, this is about creative effectiveness. This is about strategy applied to creative problem solving, and so judges are going to be sensitive to the quality of the writing. I think you just have to be wary of two things. One being that the comedy doesn't overtake the clarity, so people still know what you're actually saying. I think the other thing is think about how the copywriting decisions might help to make your point. I think that's the best scenario, where there's a distinct style. It's not overpowering the clarity of the writing, and it is actually helping to further the point and enhance the idea itself. Another piece of advice that I would give entrants is to make use of the amazing thinking that WARC and the Cannes Lions have made available to the industry and to authors in the form of the creative effectiveness ladder, because a lot of work has actually gone into creating these categories and outlining what are these big types of effectiveness drivers in the creative industry. So I think I would look at using that material, playing it back in the text, really thinking about how your thinking can complement the thinking that's already been done and continue to advance us as an industry when it comes to understanding how creativity drives effect.